Hello, welcome to another video on our channel. Here we translate testimonies from people who have had near-death experiences and other spiritual experiences. Today, let's learn the story of Cassandra Whitmore. She says that she died and was transported to a celestial garden where she met guides and had revelations about the prophecies. If you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. Leave a comment with your name and city. Let's now hear Cassandra's testimony. Hello, my name is Cassandra Whitmore. I'm 40 years old and live in Asheville, North Carolina, with my husband, Ethan, and our teenage daughter, Lila. I never imagined I would be here sharing such an extraordinary and transformative story. But life has its ways of surprising us, doesn't it? Before all this happened, I led a pretty ordinary life. I work as an accountant in a local office, spend my weekends gardening and having barbecues with my family. We are the portrait of the typical middle-class American family. Our days are filled with the usual routines: waking up early, making breakfast, taking Lila to school, work, family dinner, watching some TV before bed. Nothing out of the ordinary. But everything changes on the night of December 22nd, 2021. A date that will forever be etched in my memory, not just because of the scare I go through, but because of the profound transformation it causes in my life and the way I see the world. That night, I experience what many call a near-death experience. It's an event that takes me beyond the limits of what I believe is possible, challenging everything I think I know about life, death, and what may lie beyond. What I'm about to share with you is not a fictional story. It is the honest and detailed account of my journey across the threshold between life and death, and back. A journey that not only saves my life in the physical sense, but also completely transforms my understanding of existence and the purpose of life. I know that what I'm about to tell you may seem hard to believe. If I hadn't had this experience myself, I would probably have doubts. But I ask that you listen with an open mind and heart. My intention in sharing this story is not to convince anyone, but rather to offer a different perspective on life and death, based on something I experience as intensely and as real as any other experience in my life. So, if you are ready, I invite you to embark on this extraordinary journey with me. A journey that begins with an ordinary December day and ends with an entirely new understanding of the universe and our place in it. It all starts like a normal day. It's December 22nd, and our family is excited that Christmas is approaching. We spent the afternoon decorating the tree, hanging stockings on the fireplace, and laughing at Ethan's silly jokes. The air is filled with the smell of the gingerbread cookies I baked earlier. Lila is beaming, counting the days until she opens her presents. As the evening approaches, we begin to prepare for dinner. It's then that I feel the first twinge of pain. At first, I think it's just a common headache, perhaps caused by the stress of the holidays. I decide to ignore her and continue with the preparations. But the pain doesn't go away. In fact, it gets more and more intense. It's like someone is squeezing my head in a vice, the pressure increasing by the minute. I had never felt anything like it before. The intensity is frightening. I try to hide it, not wanting to worry my family. But Ethan, always on the lookout, notices something is wrong. "Are you okay, Cass?" he asks, concern evident in his eyes. I try to smile, but the pain is so strong I can barely speak. Finally, I admit that I'm not feeling well. Ethan insists that I take a painkiller and go to bed. Reluctant to leave the party preparations behind, I end up agreeing. The pain is becoming unbearable. I scramble up the stairs, each step sending waves of pain through my skull. When I get to the room, I collapse on the bed, praying that the medicine will take effect quickly. But relief doesn't come. Lying there, my head throbbing, I begin to feel a growing fear. Something is very wrong. I can feel it. It's like my body is warning me, screaming that I need help. The hours pass, and the pain only gets worse. I can hear the muffled sounds of Ethan and Lila downstairs, finishing up Christmas preparations. I want to call them, tell them I need to go to the hospital, but my voice feels stuck in my throat. As the night progresses, Other symptoms begin to appear. My vision becomes blurry, and I start to feel a strange weakness on the right side of my body. I try to get up to go to the bathroom, but my legs don't respond like they should. Panic starts to take over me. I know something serious is happening, but I feel powerless to do anything about it. The last thing I remember before falling into unconsciousness is looking at the clock next to the bed. It's 4:30 in the morning. Little did I know that that moment would mark the beginning of a journey that would change my life forever. I wake up in a state of total confusion. The darkness of the room is oppressive, and for a moment I can't remember where I am or what is happening. Then, like a bolt of lightning, the pain returns. Intense, unrelenting. I try to sit up, but my body doesn't respond to my commands. The right side feels completely disconnected, like it's no longer part of me. Panic takes over. I know I need help, and quickly. I try to call out to Ethan, but my voice comes out as a hoarse whisper, inaudible even to myself. Frustration and fear grow by the second. With all the strength I can muster, I try to get up from the bed. It's a terrible mistake. As soon as I move on, the world spins violently around me. I lose my balance and fall heavily to the floor, hitting my head on the nightstand as I fall. Pain explodes in my head, and for a moment, I think I'm going to pass out. But the survival instinct speaks louder. Lying on the cold floor with half my body paralyzed, I start to crawl towards the door. Every movement is agony, but I know I have to keep going. I manage to get to the wall next to the door. With my left hand, the only one that still responds, I start knocking on the wall, praying that someone will hear. The seconds seem to drag by, each knock on the wall draining the last of my strength. Finally, I hear footsteps rushing up the stairs. The door opens, and I see Ethan, his face a mask of shock and fear. "Cassandra, my God, what happened?" he shouts, running to my side. I try to speak, explain what I'm feeling, but the words don't come out. Ethan screams for help, and soon my mother, who lives downstairs, appears in the doorway, still in her pajamas, her face pale with worry. Everything happens very quickly after that. Ethan calls 911 while my mom holds my hand, whispering words of comfort. I want to tell them that I love them, that I'm scared, but my body refuses to cooperate. The paramedics arrive within minutes, although it feels like an eternity to me. They ask Ethan quick questions as they examine me. I hear words like stroke and emergency, and the fear in their eyes only confirms the gravity of the situation. They put me on a stretcher and quickly took me to the ambulance. Ethan comes with me, holding my hand the entire time. I remember looking at him as the sirens wailed, seeing the terror in his eyes, mixed with fierce determination. During the ride to the hospital, I fluctuate between consciousness and unconsciousness. The pain is constant, but now it seems distant, as if it were happening to someone else. I hear the paramedics talking about blood pressure and vital signs on Dedray, but the words don't make sense to me. The last thing I remember before we arrived at the hospital was looking out the ambulance window. The sky begins to lighten, announcing the dawn of a new day. A day that, I don't know yet, will change the course of my life forever. The bright lights of the emergency room momentarily blind me as the ambulance doors open. I'm quickly transferred to a hospital stretcher and taken inside. The scene around me is a whirlwind of activity. Doctors shouting orders, nurses running around, machines beeping. A young doctor approaches, his intense eyes focused on me as he asks Ethan quick questions about my symptoms and medical history. I want to respond. I want to scream that I'm scared, that I need help, but my voice still doesn't work. Ischemic stroke is suspected. I hear the doctor say to a nurse, "We need a CT scan immediately." I am taken to the exam room, where I spend what seems like an eternity inside the CT machine. The noise is deafening, making my headache even worse. I close my eyes, trying to concentrate on breathing, on staying calm. When the exam is over, I am taken back to the emergency room. The doctor returns, his face serious as he looks at the images on a monitor. He turns to Ethan, who is beside me, holding my hand. "Mr. Whitmore, your wife has suffered a massive ischemic stroke," he says, his voice calm but urgent. "The cause was a carotid artery dissection. We need to act quickly." Ethan squeezes my hand, and I can see the fear in his eyes. "What can we do?" he asks, his voice shaking slightly. The doctor explains that they will try a medication to dissolve the clot, but that time is crucial. If that doesn't work, the next option will be emergency brain surgery. The next few minutes are a blur. I feel the prick of the needle as the medicine is injected into my arm. Everyone in the room seems to be holding their breath, hoping for a miracle, but the miracle doesn't come. After what seems like an eternity, the doctor shakes his head. "It's not working as we hoped," he says. "We need to transfer her to a specialized stroke center. They have the resources to perform the surgery she needs." The news falls like a bomb. Ethan starts asking frantic questions about where I'll be taken, how long it will take, what the risks are. I want to comfort him, tell him everything will be okay, but my body refuses to cooperate. The doctor explains that I will be transferred by helicopter to a hospital in Charlotte. "It's my best chance," he says. "Time is of the essence, and air transportation is the quickest option." As they prepare me for the transfer, I see my mother arriving at the emergency room, tears in his eyes. "Stay strong, my love," he says. "I'll be waiting for you." As the helicopter takes off, I look out the window and see Ethan and my mom getting smaller and smaller. A strange feeling of detachment begins to wash over me. As we soar toward the sky, I don't know that I'm about to embark on the most extraordinary journey of my life. As the helicopter gains altitude, a strange feeling begins to wash over me. The pain, which until then had been constant and agonizing, began to subside, giving way to a lightness that I had never experienced before. It's as if every meter we move away from the ground frees me a little more from the weight of my sick body. I look out the window and see the rising sun painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. The beauty of the scene is literally breathtaking. I realize I'm no longer breathing, but strangely, that doesn't scare me. On the contrary, I feel a deep peace envelop me. That's when it happens. One moment I'm lying on the helicopter stretcher, and the next I'm floating above my own body. The feeling is indescribable, a mixture of shock, fascination, and a deep peace that I had never experienced before. I look down and see my physical body, pale and still, as the paramedics work frantically. Their voices seem distant, as if they are coming through a long tunnel. I want to tell them that I'm fine, that they don't need to worry, but I realize that I no longer have a physical voice to use. As I float there, I notice that I am surrounded by a soft, comforting light. It is not a light that comes from a specific source, but seems to emanate from everything around me. It's as if the air itself is glowing. I feel a gentle pull, as if something is calling me upward. Without fear or hesitation, I let myself be carried by this invisible force, looking out at a vast sea of white that stretches as far as the eye can see. The sun, now completely above the horizon, bathes everything in a warm, golden light. It's at that moment that I realize I'm no longer alone. Next to me, a luminous presence appears. It doesn't have a defined shape, but it emanates a feeling of love and compassion so intense that I immediately feel welcomed and safe. Presence communicates with me, not through words, but through thoughts and feelings that flow directly into my consciousness. I understand that I am being invited to go on a journey beyond the limits of the physical world that I know. Without hesitation, I accept the invitation. As we move forward, the scenery around us begins to change. The clouds dissipate, giving way to a vast field of stars. It's as if we're traveling through the cosmos itself, with galaxies and nebulae passing us by in a cosmic ballet of light and color. Time seems to have no meaning in this place. I can't tell if our journey lasts seconds or eternities. All I know is that every moment is filled with a beauty and peace that transcends anything I have ever experienced on Earth. Finally, We arrived at a place I can only describe as a garden of light. There are no plants or flowers in the traditional sense. She presents herself not with words, but with a wave of love and recognition that envelops me completely. I instantly understand that she is there to guide me through this extraordinary experience. Aurora takes me deeper into the garden, and as we go, I begin to feel a deep connection to everything around me. It is as if every particle of light, every vibration of energy, is part of me, and I am part of it. The feeling of separation that I had experienced all my earthly life simply dissolves. In that moment, I understand with crystal clarity that I stand on the threshold between two worlds, the physical one that I had left behind, and a vast and mysterious spiritual realm that opens up before me. Aurora makes me understand that I am about to make a crucial choice, a decision that will define not only the course of my own existence, but one that will have implications far beyond myself. With a gentle gesture, Aurora invites me to move forward, to discover the truths and mysteries that await beyond that garden of light. Little do I know that what I'm about to experience will forever change my understanding of life, death, and the universe itself. As we move through the garden of light, I feel a subtle shift in the energy around us. It's as if we are entering an even more sacred space, if that is possible. Aurora, my spiritual guide, seems to shine with even greater intensity, her presence radiating wisdom and compassion. We arrived at a place that I can only describe as a cosmic amphitheater. There are no walls or ceiling, just a vast open space surrounded by distant stars and nebulae. In the center of this space, Aurora turns to me, her ethereal form solidifying slightly, taking on a more human appearance, yet still radiant and ethereal. Cassandra, she speaks, her voice resonating not through the air but directly into my consciousness, and you have reached a crucial point in your journey. Here, on the threshold between worlds, you will have the opportunity to see and understand things that few incarnated beings have the chance to experience it. I feel a wave of emotion wash over me, a mix of awe, excitement, and a touch of apprehension. What exactly will I see, Aurora? I ask, surprised to discover that I can communicate with just my thoughts. Aurora smiles, a gesture that sends waves of pulsing light through her form. You will see the truth, Cassandra, the truth about your life. I begin to see images of my current life, moments of joy, sadness, triumph, and challenge. I see my birth, my childhood, the day I met Ethan, Lila's birth. Each moment is imbued with a clarity and depth of emotion that leaves me breathless. But then, to my surprise, the screen starts showing scenes I don't recognize. I see myself in clothes from bygone eras, living lives in times and places I had never known in this incarnation. In one scene, I'm a healer in an ancient village. In another, a courageous explorer exploring unknown lands. These are your past lives, Cassandra, Aurora explains. Each of them contributed to who you are today, each lesson learned, each challenge overcome. I marvel at the richness and diversity of these experiences. I begin to understand how each life has shaped me, preparing me for the challenges I would face in my current incarnation. But Aurora wasn't finished. With another gesture, the screen changes again. This time, the images are different, more intense, more vivid, and somehow more urgent. What I'm about to show you, Cassandra, are visions of the future, not just your personal future, but the future of humanity and planet Earth. Aurora says, her voice carrying a seriousness that makes me shudder. The images that follow are breathtaking in their intensity and scope. I see major climate changes transforming the face of the planet, societies in turmoil, technological advances beyond my imagination. But I also see hope, communities coming together, innovative solutions rising from the ashes of the old world. These are the prophecies that many talk about, explains Aurora. These are not mere predictions or possibilities, Cassandra. They are events that will unfold, as certain as the sunrise. I am stunned by the magnitude of what I am seeing. But why am I seeing this? What can I do with this knowledge? Aurora approaches, her presence enveloping me with a comforting warmth. You are seeing this because you have a role to play, Cassandra. Every soul that returns to Earth after an experience like this takes with them a seed of change. You will have the choice to plant that seed or not. At that moment, I understand that I am facing a monumental decision. It's not just about getting back into my life or moving forward. It's about accepting a mission, a greater purpose than I had ever imagined for myself. Aurora must have sensed my hesitation, because her voice softens even more. You don't need to decide now, Cassandra. There is more for you to see and understand. But remember, with great knowledge comes great responsibility. The choice you make will have repercussions not just for you, but for many others. With these words, the cosmic screen disappears, and I find myself once again in the vast amphitheater of stars. My mind is filled with images and information, my being vibrating with the energy of the revelations I have received. Aurora extends her luminous hand to me. Come, she says. There is more for you to see before the moment of your decision comes. And so, still in awe and a little apprehensive, I follow my guide to the next stage of this extraordinary journey beyond the limits of life and death. As I follow Aurora through the vast cosmic space, I feel a change in the atmosphere around us. The air, if I can call what surrounds us on that ethereal plane that way, seems to become denser, charged with palpable energy. Aurora stops and turns to me, her face now more serious than before. Cassandra, she says, her voice reverberating through my consciousness. What you are about to see and experience is of paramount importance. The prophecies that will be revealed to you are not mere possibilities or vague warnings. They are events that will unfold on the earthly plane, as certain as the cycle of the seasons. With a graceful gesture of her luminous hand, Aurora makes a series of three-dimensional images appear before us, so vivid that they seem real. It's as if we are observing Earth from a cosmic perspective, watching events unfold in real time. The first image shows vast climate changes. I see glaciers melting at an alarming rate, sea levels rising and swallowing coastal cities. Storms of unprecedented intensity sweep across entire continents. This will start to intensify in the coming years, explains Aurora. The Earth is entering a period of great physical transformation. The scene changes, showing societies in turmoil. I see people in the streets, protesting against systems that no longer serve them. Governments fall, new forms of social organization emerge. Humanity will undergo a revolution of consciousness, says Aurora. Old structures will give way to new forms of coexistence and governance. Another image emerges, this one showing impressive technological advances. I see machines capable of curing diseases previously considered incurable, sources of clean and unlimited energy, and human-machine interfaces that look like something out of a science fiction movie. Technology will advance rapidly, explains Aurora, bringing both solutions and new ethical challenges. The next vision is the most disturbing. It shows conflicts on a global scale, wars over increasingly scarce resources. I see weapons of unimaginable destructive power and devastating consequences for the planet and its inhabitants. This is a critical period, Aurora says, her voice thick with concern. The choices made in this moment will determine the course of humanity for millennia. But then, just when I think I can't take it anymore, the images change again. I see communities coming together, people of different cultures and beliefs working together to find solutions. Green technologies transforming deserts into oases, cities reinventing themselves to live in harmony with nature. This is the potential for healing and renewal, says Aurora. It is within humanity's reach, but it requires a profound change in consciousness. The last image shows something that leaves me speechless. It's a view of Earth from space, but not as we know it. The planet shines with its own light, pulsing with an energy that seems alive and conscious. This is the final destination, Aurora explains. Earth as a fully awakened being, and humanity as guardian and co-creator of this new world. When the visions stop, I stand there, stunned by the magnitude of what I witnessed. Aurora approaches, her presence comforting amid the whirlwind of emotions I feel. "Cassandra," she says softly, "what you have seen are the outlines of what is to come. The details may vary, but the essence will remain. Humanity stands on the threshold of its greatest transformation since the beginning of its journey on Earth." "But why show me this?" I ask, my mental voice shaking with emotion. "What can I do with this knowledge?" Aurora smiles, a gesture that sends waves of comforting light through her being. Each soul that returns after an experience like this takes with it a seed of change. Some choose to plant it, others keep it dormant. The choice is always individual, but the consequences are collective. She pauses. "It's not just about my individual life now. It's about the future of humanity and the planet." The magnitude of this revelation leaves me speechless, my mind struggling to process everything I saw and heard. Aurora, noticing my state of shock, places what appears to be a comforting hand on my shoulder, although neither of us have physical form on that plane. "Don't worry, Cassandra," she says gently. "You are not alone on this journey. Many others are awakening to this reality, each in their own way. Your task, if you choose to accept it, will be to help awaken others, to prepare the way for the changes to come." Slowly, I start to find my voice again. "But how?" I ask. "How can I make a difference in the face of such enormous and inevitable events?" Aurora smiles, a gesture that radiates light and warmth. "Every act of kindness, every conscious decision, every moment of awakening counts. Great change begins in the hearts and minds of individuals. You don't have to save the world alone, Cassandra. Your task is to be a beacon of light, showing the way to those around you." As I absorb his words, I feel a subtle shift in the environment around us. The stars and galaxies that surround us seem to get closer, as if the universe itself were embracing us. "There is one more thing you need to see before making your choice," says Aurora. With a gesture, she makes what I can only describe as a cosmic mirror appear before us. "Look," she instructs. And so, I prepare to face whatever this cosmic mirror is about to reveal to me, knowing that what I see may very well determine the course of the rest of my existence. When I look in the mirror, I see not my reflection, but a future version of myself. I see myself sharing my experience with others, writing books, giving talks. I see myself planting trees. This is the impact you can have if you choose to return. It won't be easy. There will be challenges, doubts, and moments of despair. But there will also be joy, purpose, and a deep connection to something bigger than yourself. When the vision dissipates, I feel flooded with a mix of emotions: fear, excitement, awe, and most of all, a deep sense of purpose. Aurora approaches again, her being radiating compassion. "Now, Cassandra, the moment of choice has come. You can continue your journey beyond this plane, where there is no pain or suffering, only peace and unity with the whole. Or you can return to the physical plane, carrying with you the knowledge and responsibility that come with it." She pauses, letting her words sink in. There is no right or wrong choice. Both paths have their own purpose and beauty. The decision must come from your heart. I stand there on the threshold between two worlds, feeling the weight of the choice before me. On the one hand, the peace and union with the divine that I experience at that moment. On the other, the challenge and opportunity to make a difference in a changing world. I close my eyes, or the equivalent of that in that non-physical way, and allow myself to feel deeply. I think about Ethan, about Lila, about everyone I love. I think about the visions of the future I have witnessed, the possibilities and the dangers. The decision to return to the physical plane is not an easy one. On the one hand, the peace and unity I experience in the spiritual realm are indescribable. It is tempting to remain in that state of pure consciousness, free from the limitations and sufferings of the material world. On the other hand, visions of the future and understanding of the role I could play weigh heavily on my conscience. As Aurora patiently awaits my final decision, I reflect deeply on everything I have experienced. I think about Ethan and Lila, the faces of everyone I love. I think about the struggles and joys of human life, the beauty and fragility of our planet. Finally, with a clarity that surprises me, I understand that my journey on Earth is not complete. There is more to learn, more to experience, and, most importantly, more to contribute. The seed of change that Aurora mentioned is starting to germinate inside me, and I know I need to go back to plant and nurture it. When I open my eyes again, I see Aurora watching me patiently, her being radiant with unconditional love. She doesn't need words to understand. My decision is made. I choose to return. I tell Aurora, my voice, or thought, firm and resolute. Aurora smiles, her being radiating approval and love. A brave choice, Cassandra. It will not be an easy path, but it will be deeply rewarding. She approaches, enveloping me in her comforting light. Before you leave, there are a few things you need to understand. First, the transition back to the physical plane will be challenging. The specific memories of this experience may become hazy over time. This is natural and necessary. Your task is not to preach or convince others, but live according to the truth you now know. She pauses, letting her words sink in. Finally, always remember, you are not alone. Even in the most difficult moments, when it seems like everything is lost, we will be with you, guiding and supporting. Trust your intuition, because through it we can communicate. I feel a surge of gratitude and love for Aurora and everything she showed and taught me. How can I thank you for all this, I ask. Aurora smiles again, her light pulsing with affection. Live your life with purpose and love, Cassandra. That is the greatest gratitude you can offer. With these words, I feel a shift in the space around me. The spiritual realm begins to dissolve, the colors and lights merging into a whirlwind of energy. Aurora starts to walk away, but her voice echoes one last time in my consciousness. Remember, Cassandra, you are stronger than you know, wiser than you believe, and more loved than you can conceive. Go with our blessing and our love. And then, in an instant that seems to last an eternity, I feel myself being pulled back into my physical body. The transition is abrupt and disorienting. Suddenly the pain returns, intense and overwhelming. The noise of the hospital machines, the agitated voices of the doctors, everything floods my senses at once. I open my eyes, blinking against the bright light of the hospital room. I see worried faces leaning over me, doctors, nurses, and, to my surprise and delight, Ethan. She's back, I hear someone shout. It's a miracle. Ethan squeezes my hand, tears streaming down his face. Cassandra, he whispers, his voice cracking with emotion. I thought I lost you. I try to speak, but my throat is dry and sore. Instead, I just squeeze his hand back, feeling the reality of my choice solidify. As the doctors bustle around me, running tests and adjusting equipment, I close my eyes again. For a brief moment, I feel Aurora's comforting presence, like a distant echo of light and love. Welcome back. It seems to whisper in my mind. Your journey has just begun. And so, with pain in my body but with new clarity in my soul, I embark on the next phase of my life. A life that now has a purpose far greater than I could have ever imagined. The days and weeks following my return are, without a doubt, the most challenging of my life. The transition back to the physical world is brutal. The peace and clarity I experienced in the spiritual realm give way to a reality of intense pain and frustrating physical limitations. The doctors are baffled by my survival. By all medical indicators, I should not have survived such a massive stroke, much less regained consciousness so quickly. They use words like miracle and inexplicable, while I silently know the truth behind my unlikely recovery. Rehabilitation is a slow and often agonizing process. I have to relearn basic skills, talking, eating, walking. Every little bit of progress is a hard-won victory. There are moments of deep despair when the path ahead seems impossible to walk. It is during these darkest moments that I most strongly feel Aurora's presence and the memory of what I experienced beyond. It's not a clear, defined memory, but more like a feeling, a deep certainty that there is something greater guiding and supporting me. Ethan has been my rock through this entire process. He is by my side every day, encouraging me, helping me with physical therapy exercises, reading to me when I'm too tired to talk. Your unwavering strength and love constantly remind me of why I chose to return. Lila, our daughter, is also a source of inspiration. Seeing your resilience in the face of the near loss of your mother, your determination to help with my recovery, gives me the strength to keep fighting, even on the hardest days. As my body begins to heal, I begin to notice subtle changes in my perception of the world around me. Colors appear more vibrant, sounds richer. I find myself noticing little details that would have previously gone unnoticed. The pattern of leaves on a tree, the sound of the wind, the sparkle in a stranger's eyes. Most significantly, I begin to feel a deep connection with the people around me. It's like I can feel your emotions, your struggles and joys. Sometimes a kind word or touch comes to me instinctively, offering comfort or encouragement just when someone needs it. The doctors and nurses often comment on my positive attitude and quick recovery. They don't understand how I can smile and find hope in the midst of so much pain and uncertainty. I don't know how to explain that every moment of pain is a reminder that I'm alive, that I chose this path for a greater reason. As the weeks turn into months, my recovery continues to surprise everyone. Movements that the doctors thought I would never do again gradually return. My speech, initially slurred and difficult, becomes clearer and more fluent. It's during a particularly challenging physical therapy session that I have a moment of crystal clarity. As I struggle to take a few steps without support, I suddenly remember the visions of the future that Aurora showed me. I see the images of change and transformation again, and I understand with a new depth that my current struggle is just the beginning of something much greater. At that moment, I make a decision. I will not just be a stroke survivor, but a messenger of hope and transformation. Every step I take, every word I relearn to pronounce, every small victory is a step towards that greater purpose. At night, when the pain sometimes keeps me awake, I look out the hospital window at the stars. In these quiet moments, I feel a deep connection to the universe I have experienced on my journey beyond. I whisper a silent thank you to Aurora and the forces that guided me back. As my recovery progresses, I begin to make plans for the future. It's no longer enough to simply return to my previous life. I know I was brought back for a reason, and I'm determined to honor this second chance. As the months turn into years, the depth of the transformation I've experienced becomes increasingly clear. It's not just a physical or emotional change, but a fundamental shift in the way I see and interact with the world around me. The specific memories of my near-death experience became hazy, as Aurora had predicted. But the essence of what I learned remains strong, guiding every aspect of my life. My support group, Rebirth, a new beginning, is growing beyond my most optimistic expectations. What starts as a small group in a community center now has branches in several cities. People come from far and wide to share their stories and seek guidance. One day, after a particularly powerful session, a young woman named Emma comes to me. Her eyes are brimming with tears as she says, "Cassandra, your words today. It's like you can see into my soul." "How do you do that?" I smile gently, placing my hand over hers. "Emma, we are all connected in ways we can't always see or understand. When we open our hearts to that connection, we can feel what others are feeling, understand their struggles and joys as if they were our own." Emma nods slowly, a look of understanding dawning on her face. "It's like you have a wisdom that goes beyond this world," she says softly. "Your words touch me deeply, reminding me of the extraordinary journey that brought me here." "We all have this wisdom within us, Emma," I reply. "Sometimes we need to go through great challenges to awaken it." My environmental work also expands significantly. What started as small local initiatives has now grown into a foundation dedicated to promoting sustainable practices and environmental awareness. We work with schools, businesses, and local governments to implement changes that can make a difference. The visions of the future that Aurora showed me remain vivid in my mind, driving me to work tirelessly. Every tree planted, every child educated about the importance of taking care of our planet, every environmental policy implemented seems like a small step towards a better future. At home, my relationship with Ethan and Lila deepens in ways I never could have imagined. There is a new appreciation for every moment we share, a deep gratitude for the second chance I was given. Lila, now a young adult, follows in my footsteps in many ways. She is studying environmental science at university and is already a passionate activist. Often when I watch her speak at meetings or lead community projects, I feel a mixture of pride and admiration. One night, while we're having dinner together, Lila surprises me with a question. "Mom," she begins, hesitantly, "do you ever regret it? I mean, your life changed so much after the stroke. You had to give up so much." I remain silent for a moment, pondering his question. Finally, I look into her eyes and smile. "Lila, darling, I haven't given up on anything. I've gained everything. Yes, the road has been difficult and there have been moments of pain and fear, but each challenge has brought me to where I am today, made me who I am, and I wouldn't trade that for nothing in the world." Ethan reaches his hand across the table, holding mine. "Oh, you taught us so much, Cass," he says softly. "About strength, about purpose, about love." I feel tears forming in my eyes, a wave of emotion washing over me. "You two taught me so much too," I reply. "Your love and support gave me strength when I needed it most." That night, lying in bed next to Ethan, I reflect on how much my life has changed in the last few years. The accountant I was before seems like a completely different person now. My days are filled with purpose and meaning in a way I have never experienced before. Of course, there are challenges. The prophecies Aurora shared with me still weigh heavy on my mind. I see signs of the changes she predicted, in the news about climate disasters, in rising social tensions, in technological advances that sometimes seem more frightening than promising. But where before I would have felt fear and despair, I now feel determination and hope. Every person I help find a new purpose. Every action I take to protect our planet feels like a step toward a better future. As I fall asleep, I feel a deep peace wash over me. It's as if, for a brief moment, I can feel Aurora's comforting presence again, reminding me that I am never truly alone on this journey. My near-death experience wasn't about death or what comes after. It was about life, about how to live fully, with purpose and love. And as I look to the future, I know my journey is far from over. In fact, I feel like it's just beginning.